Welcome back, everyone, to the HNW podcast. It's Smokey Massacre here. Joining me today, we've got Flame, Patty, and Snoz. How you all doing?
Sure.
Doing good.
Yeah, doing good. Excited.
So we are going to have a fun time talking about jump etiquette. That is the subject of today's episode. Jump etiquette, it could mean different things to different people, but we're going to go over it and just talk about some of the different aspects of jumping that we have to keep in mind, and just little things that you can do as a common courtesy for other jumpers. So I'm gonna just jump right into it and get your guys' thoughts on a very, very basic jump etiquette concept, and that is talking during someone's run. What are your guys' stance on that?
Well, I mean, it depends, right? Dead silence is kind of awkward for some jumpers, and some jumpers actually want a little talking. Maybe not too much talking, but every jumper is a little different. So I guess if you don't know who it is, you probably don't say much of anything. But I know there's some jumpers like a hunter, a puma. They actually want a little bit of talk back and forth as they're doing their runs, and everyone's different though.
Yeah, I like to
think
cheer
it's-
people on. Oh, sorry, Flame. But the one thing for me is sorry.
You go.
I just want to say, like, for me personally, like, I'm all for cheering someone on. I do my best not to say anything as someone's starting an obstacle or mid obstacle. So post obstacle, pre next obstacle.
Yeah.
I love to up people, but for me personally, I don't think I know it can affect me if somebody says something just as I'm about to enter an obstacle, especially one that I may have struggled with in the past. I don't like that personally.
Now
I think the talking during run things. So,
Yeah.
this is a great start.
I'm just saying, now you finally get your chance to talk, Flame.
Yeah, the stage is open. I think it all kind of just comes down to the personal preference of the person running. Like,
Yeah.
if they want dead silence, give that person dead silence. If they don't mind talking, okay, talk a little bit. If they specifically ask for you to keep talking, then keep talking as if there's no run going at all. Like, it's just kind of weird because there's no definitive answer that everyone would agree with in terms of how talking during runs should be handled for everyone.
Well, I agree with that. So let's go through each of you guys. Snoz, what do you like when you're doing a run? What level of talking do you like?
That doesn't matter at all for me.
Yeah. What like
But
someone?
it's funny,
What if they're like having a
well-
whole conversation? Like talking about something completely unrelated while you run. Does that bother you at all?
I mean, that might. It shouldn't really. I don't think it would upset me, but I guess in a perfect world, it wouldn't be something I'm not involved in since I'm like focusing. So if I'm focusing on the run, I'm going to hear what they're saying, and if I don't know what they're talking about, I might start to think about it more. Like, what are they talking? And then suddenly I screw up, maybe. So. I mean, I'd rather be something I'm involved in the conversation with than some side conversation. But it's funny what Patty says, because even if they're quiet, even if they kind of want quiet, I feel like there's that awkward silence. And so that's when I just realized it now that Patty mentions it. Most of my talking is going to be nice, like right in between
Yeah.
obstacles when they completed an obstacle. It kind of gets away from the silence and keeps them feeling good, but yeah, I feel like the middle of the obstacles is probably the best time. But like Flame said, some people want an ongoing conversation, and some people are like that.
Patty, what do you like?
Yeah, I'm kind of in between. I don't mind conversation unrelated to the stage. You know what I mean? Like, most of the time, I'm gonna be drilled enough. I'm gonna be practiced enough that I'm gonna be really comfortable with people. Kind of just chattering.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you want it now, but my story does focus on that, like what happened, like somebody chiming in terms of like the stage and the obstacles.
Yeah. Let's
That
get
to me
into it.
like can really, yeah. So it can really distract me. Like a perfect example. I'm not gonna say the person's name, but I'm going into the jump and kai, which I have failed in the past, and this particular person mentions previous failures as I'm doing my run, which to me is very, very inappropriate.
Oh yeah.
And that to me is something
I
like
think I remember this.
your Exodus for me, like that's not something you do. You don't mention stuff like that. Uh, for me, it's just a line you don't cross, and like that's somebody who will just be muted for me. Like I'm not even gonna risk it. Typically don't mute people. Like I said, I enjoy conversation unrelated to what's happening. You know what I mean? And I do love when Snoz chimes in with a nice or a yeah.
Yeah.
But like that kind of situation really takes my focus away, and I'm more focused on like I can't believe you would say, oh, you failed this 6 times in your history in HNW. Like that's not something you should do. And
Yeah.
for me, that instance in particular was the one time I think somebody crossed the line during my run. Because normally like it's hard to do. Like I said, if it's not that kind of thing, I'm not gonna take it personally or mute you or anything like
I
that.
actually
But
was there for
sheesh.
that.
What was that? Was that this tournament 26 on Infinite?
Yeah, it was.
Ooh,
Yeah.
This
all right,
tournament,
all right.
yeah.
We know
Yeah,
Patty gets
I
the
know
jump
her.
hang Kai now. No other spoilers, but hey, if you want to see Tournament 26 episode 2, Patty, Snoz, and Flame all running in that episode, you can catch that on the Halo Ninja Warrior channel. So make sure you
I get
subscribe.
the
Early
jumping
access
Kai- oh,
on
sorry.
Smokey's non-existent Patreon.
Yes, exactly. Oh,
Or OnlyFans, I don't know.
I will say this though to end this area of the discussion. I feel like dead silence is the worst of everything now.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure.
well, Flame, what do
I
you
feel
like?
like
If
when
you're
there's
running,
not
what do
a
you like?
single noise, it's just
Well,
awkward.
for me, it kind of just depends on how nervous I feel going into a run. Like, if I'm feeling reasonably confident, I'm fine with some talking. But if I'm, like, to the point where the moment I jump onto the first obstacle, like, my heart starts beating out of my chest, I want almost dead silence
Yeah.
outside of the host giving, like, time updates
You
or
know,
something. Maybe an occasional nice, too.
It's so funny you say that because time updates is actually the one thing when I'm running that I can't stand. I actually hate it. Like if I'm running through anyone's course and they're like, I get up like
Yeah.
I beat like the 4th obstacle of stage 1. They're like, you got 65 seconds left. I'm like, I don't know what that means because I have not timed myself to
Yeah.
this point. I don't know if that means I'm doing good on time or doing bad on time. So like I want time updates if I need to fly. If I need to put the pedal to the metal, then yeah, let me know. But if not, like, let me just keep doing my run. Side conversations, I can handle like some joking back and forth, but yeah, I agree with what Patty said. Like, don't ever bring up someone's past with an obstacle during their run. That's just because now they're gonna get in their own head about it and like be overthinking it. It's just not
100%.
cool. Well, I'm glad we all can agree on that. And also, like, GoTanks is someone that I know he hates, like, he wants dead silence during his entire run. But even then, I'll be the one to, like, he beats an obstacle. That window in between obstacles, I'll give him, like, hey, you're doing good, man. So, I think there is a safe zone for talking during runs, for sure. Now, when it comes to other aspects, like, one thing that I wanted to talk about was actually practicing. So whenever you're practicing on a course and maybe someone jumps in front of you on an obstacle or like someone's rushing you from behind. But to me, an even bigger one is when someone is in a lobby and their intention is to do their run. Like this is their final practice before their run and other people are on the course at the same time. Flame, let's start with you. What are your thoughts on that type of a situation?
So, in terms of that situation, I think it should be fairly obvious. Just stay out of that person's way. But at the same time, I feel like there's some times where having multiple people on the course at the same time isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like if 2 people are going to run at the same time, as long as they relatively stay out of each other's way, I don't see that being an issue. But outside of things like that, just stay out of people's way when they're practicing. Go on a different stage or watch them.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak for myself. Like as someone who tends to go a little bit faster through some stages than other people might be practicing. If I'm like behind someone, I've definitely been the bad guy who like, well, I think most of the times it's happened to me. I've been the one practicing for my actual run, but there's someone who's in front of me who's like slower. So I'm like, ugh, get out of my way. Definitely not talking about Snoz. But, yeah. Patty, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with Flame. I'm kind of in between though. One thing like I feel like we're missing or that doesn't happen as much as I wish it did is like for me I'm a pace guy, right? Like I'm just gonna do it how I've always practiced it. Like I'm not gonna slow down, I'm not gonna stop in between obstacles. Like I'm gonna get on, I'm gonna run through, I'm gonna try and complete it and just keep that pace throughout. So definitely don't want somebody in front of me. But one thing I wish we kind of did more was, I mean, coach people up. You know what I mean? I feel like when
Yeah.
we have something down, I feel like we need to be a little more willing to like, just coach people up and let them know like, hey, this is what I did, and I feel like if you do this, it might help a bit. Sometimes that happens, but I feel like nowadays we're not like really practicing as a group, kind of like
Yeah.
we used to. So I
Well,
feel like we missed that chance a lot, where people probably would do a lot better if they had some people in there, kind of, oh, tweak this a little bit. I got you. I feel like people are holding secrets now. Like, oh, I
yeah.
can't let anybody know my technique, and
Yeah.
it's kind of getting to a weird area. I feel like so. For
Well,
me, etiquette is, hey, gas people up, let them know how they can beat something if they're struggling, and like Flame said, stay out the way.
it's funny you say that because I agree that like I definitely have seen some instances where people are it seems like they're trying to keep a secret about how they do an obstacle. I think there might be two reasons for that. One is maybe they're hoping to use it as an advantage to get ahead of the competition, but the other might be they don't know if it's legal or illegal, so they're just hoping that the course host will
Oh
know
yeah,
about it.
that's
Uh,
that's a
but
good point.
but another thing, and I know that again, I'm just gonna point out all my own flaws now. I've definitely done this a lot where I've been jumping for so long, and I'm like, I know that I can figure out how to do an obstacle, so someone might be trying to give me advice, and I'll be like, can you just leave me alone? Like, I will figure this out on my own. Which is not a good not a good headspace to be in. I definitely agree that it's nice when people help out each other. Snoz, you got any thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, we've literally switched tangents completely on what we were talking about. So,
Well, touch on
as
either one
far
you
as
want, man.
as far as the practice, if you're about to do your run and you're doing your final 15 minutes of practice, like I've gone on the same stages like you, and if I find out that I've screwed you up and got in your way, then I'm just getting off the stage. If I can't stay out of
I've
your
seen you do that.
way, then I need to get off it. But if I stay, but I'm pretty good at staying it. Like yesterday, Rog was doing a tournament, and he was warming up for his run. We won't tell you what it was, and I was doing the same stage as him. But like I was conscious in my screen that if he died, I literally would get off and wait for him to pass
Yeah.
because he only has 15 minutes and I cannot slow him down. So if you're conscious about it, fine. But if you do get in the way, then I think Flame said it best. Just do another stage. If he's on stage 2, go do stage 1 or 3. You know.
Well, I kind of like that we've gotten into this topic of. I like where this conversation went, thanks to Patty, about like helping each other out. So now I'm curious. Like, this is another thing, Snoz. You and I have talked about this a lot. When it comes to people who are trying out a new course for the first time, there's a lot of jumping etiquette that we could dive into and get into a lot of nitty gritty stuff. Talking about competing on other people's courses because there are so many course hosts right now. And one thing I notice is a lot of people seem to think that they have the right to tell other course hosts what they're doing wrong. And I want to know what your guys' thoughts are on that because I do think that there's some where it's the intention is constructive criticism, and then there's some cases that I've seen where it's like it's almost like just unnecessary criticism of just hey, like this person is doing their course the way they want to
Well,
do it. Like,
it depends on. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of both because you got some people that, I mean, if they can't beat the obstacle in the first 5 minutes they look at it,
yep,
something has to be wrong with the
Hmm.
obstacle when you got to give it some time because I mean, there's been obstacles like, all right, we'll go to your tournament, Smokey. You remember my success rate on your Bridge of Blades for the first like week or two?
yeah, it was pretty bad.
Couldn't do it, was going nuts, and then
Mm-hmm.
finally figured it out, and I was just fine. I feel like some people just need to get it right away, or they kind of lose it as far as this isn't fair, and they don't give it a fair shake. And in addition to that, even if it's not fair, it's the same for everybody else, and the host can do whatever he wants. Whether it's good or bad, that's their prerogative.
Yep.
And if you don't like it, you don't have to run. So I mean, if you can do it in a constructive way and go, look, I like your obstacle, but if you did maybe this might be better. This is why, and explain it in a nice way, then everyone wins from that. But if you just start complaining and, so to speak, shedding on it, that doesn't help anybody.
What's funny is the first podcast we did, it's not, it was just you and me. Ego Things popped in there for a little bit, but we kept it very tame. We didn't like stir the pot a lot. I feel like this one we can definitely start stirring the pot, and I'm all for it. So one thing, and Flame, I want to hear your opinion on this because you host your course as well. So when it comes to someone who has a problem with your course, and maybe say they have a problem with your course so much that they decide they don't even want to compete, would you rather someone has a big problem with your course, complains about it, but still runs, or someone who actually has a problem with your course and says, like, I'm not going to run, and then you can kind of avoid any potential frustration with them if they fail in a way that they don't like?
Well, if the person is still, even if they don't like the course, is at least trying and legitimately wanting to do good still despite their problems, then I'd rather that person still compete, even if I know their reaction when the fail inevitably happens will not be fun.
Yeah.
But if it's someone who doesn't like the course, has some problem with it, and just decides to do something very dumb out of spite, like trying the first obstacle backwards, then if it's something like that, then of course I don't want that person running.
Yeah.
I think to be honest, and I'm drowning out Patty a little bit, but I think I'm the best example of this discussion right here.
Great bet.
Take Flame's course, for example. Flame has one of the hardest courses. Has one of easily, probably over the time he's done it, the hardest stage one. I can't beat his stage one right now. I know that. I now, granted, maybe if I put in a little more practice, I could get closer. But right now, going into his event, I know I'm not beating his stage one, but that will not prevent me from doing as good as I can. Some people, if they don't think they can beat stage one, they don't even want to compete. And I mean, people can do what they want. I agree with Flame. If they're going to be so upset, they're just going to complain. Well, then just be polite. Say, I'm not going to compete. It's because I don't feel comfortable on your course. Don't take it the wrong way, and be polite about it. Then it's fine. And I think that's what more people need to do. But instead, people run the course and they already know what they're doing when they run the course because no one runs it blind. And then if they don't do good in the results, they chastise it even more, which is just like a broken record and doesn't help anybody.
I mean, I get it. People want to do well. Like you don't start a tournament hoping to do bad, but everyone wants to do well. And then maybe something doesn't go your way, and then you get frustrated. And you first instinct is to blame it on the course host because they're the ones who made the course and all that. Or you can blame the game sometimes if you got a bad slide or whatever. But I don't know, Patty.
I could give you a perfect real life example right now, currently happening.
Oh, hit me with it.
There's multiple people that think your Smokey turret obstacle is impossible and unfair. I obviously don't feel that way whatsoever, but there are multiple people, and you know this because they're not talking behind their back. They talk to you about it.
Oh, I know.
And they just have a very difficult time with it for whatever reason. Now, these people, I don't think will not, they're still going to compete. None of the people that are saying this are the type of person that I'm not competing. Yeah. But if they fail that obstacle, I'm sure you're going to hear something.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Patty Freakin in Tournament 18 with the hedgehog.
The hedgehog. Yeah, I knew it.
Patty, you want to take me back to that time
and that's what I said to the people that don't need to be named. Even though they're not rude, we're not going to name them. But every single person who's complaining, I'll bet you right now they all successfully do that obstacle. How much will I bet?
We'll see. Yeah, Patty, I need your input.
Yeah, I mean, but I do want to note one thing, and this does happen on Infinite, and also then, right? There are things that are a bit out of control, and I agree with Snoz. There's ways to do things and ways not to do things, and I think this tournament's a perfect example, right, Smokey? And Snoz said it best. There's certain obstacles that are a bit tough, and you need to learn them. You know, for me, it was the salmon ladder on stage 2, and we had conversations about it. Nothing crazy. I wasn't yelling or complaining. Just, hey, Smokey, I'm not liking how this is going. You think maybe you could do this, and you tried different things, and that's how it went. So
Yeah.
I think there are ways to do that. But one thing I think ties into this a bit, that I feel like is sort of a problem, and why other tournaments kind of get a little more shade than they should, is I feel like people are just like Snoz said, just uber competitive, and they just refuse to do bad. And if they're gonna do bad, they would rather not compete. And I feel like that's such a shame. And I feel like we're kind of getting away from the whole point of what this is. And, maybe tournament hosts have different ideas and things like that. But at the end of the day, it's us versus the tournament, right? And I always say that, and because I feel like we kind of get blinded by got to be the best, got to, beat this person, do better than this person, can't be, and it's kind of a shame that happens. And I feel like if people don't like the way a tournament is going, hey, guess what? You can hop in Forge and make your own tournament. That's a thing.
Yeah.
I just feel like if you don't have the
Yep.
time or you don't want to, just don't compete. It's totally fine.
Yeah, me personally, like if someone tells me they're not competing in my tournament, I just accept the answer and I move on. I will say I was very happy with tournament 26 because I had 26, ironically, competitors who had defeated stage 1 in the regeneration era that got lottery numbers through the lottery video, which if you haven't watched, that's a great video, you should watch it. But out of those 26, only 2 didn't compete. And obviously those are 2, very high-level jumpers on my course. But I messaged both of them. I said, would you like to compete in Halo Ninja Warrior Tournament 26? Both of them said no, and I moved on. Simple as that. Didn't really ask for an explanation, because if someone doesn't want to compete, then they don't have to compete, and I don't want to make a bigger deal out of it than it needs to be. So I know there's different schools of thought on that. But yeah, that's a big one that's been circulating the jumping community lately.
For sure.
Another one, a little thing that I wanted to hit real quick is shooting other players. Does anyone here have a problem? Like say you just failed the flying shoot and you're falling to your death and someone just pops you in the head, gets the kill. Does that bother any of you?
Not really.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
Kind of on the other, because my thing is I feel like you're towing a very thin line you don't need to. I don't mind you shooting people as they hit the water, but isn't it a very fine line? Some obstacles are, flying shoot is harder because it's a big drop, but some are not quite as a big drop, and I feel like it is a fine line where you might be, you might shoot a little bit early. That's all I'll say.
Well, it also, like, sometimes, because I don't mind it either. Like, if someone shoots me as I'm going into the water, I'm cool with it. But because usually there's a significant drop enough for it to, for you to, like, have time to make that decision that, like, oh, they failed, I can shoot them now. But I will say on certain obstacles, like, if someone shot me falling off of, like, the Bridge of Blades on my course, I'd be like, were you just aiming at me the whole time waiting?
Exactly.
Like, you're just waiting for your chance to shoot me? And shooting someone during a run, like, say, what if you're between obstacles and someone shoots you? Are any of you okay with that?
Nope.
No, that's not. That's
Be right
if you're in a real run. No, that could throw off your
No.
groove, so to speak.
Yeah.
I would honestly probably. I mean, I don't know if I would want to redo, but I would say something, and if they shot again, then maybe it would become a bigger deal. But I mean, I would just out loud, maybe even stop, take a second. I mean, I know you're in the middle of a run, but say, hey, don't shoot me again. And
Well,
most tournament hosts I think would be appropriate in that type of situation,
what
and it wouldn't happen again.
what if it's stage 3 and you're, like, between obstacles and you're clearly, like, sitting there still, just, like, waiting?
I mean, how would you,
I guess you guys haven't been on
that's a
stage 3 in so
little
long,
different,
you
but-
don't even know. All right. No, I'm just kidding.
Yikes.
All right. Well, Flame stepped away for a second, but we'll start with you guys, Patty and Snoz. I just want to get this then. This is the key to my knowledge, is your biggest jumping etiquette pet peeve. I didn't pre-ask this question, so sorry to put you all on the spot, but I just want to get your absolute pet peeve, one thing that just drives you nuts when people are doing it.
For me, it's like one. It ties into two things. One, like when people are comparing themselves to other people, it's like some kind of like, or they want to put somebody down to kind of put themselves up a bit more. So it's like, oh yeah, he did good this tournament, but last tournament he failed stage 1, the first obstacle, or something along those lines. I don't think that it should ever be about that. I feel like we should be rooting each other on and
Get back for
hyping
good,
each other up.
hopefully.
Not saying like, oh man, but you failed stage 1 last tournament. Who cares if you got to stage 3 this tournament? Don't do that stuff. That stuff is so silly. I feel like we should be celebrating people getting to stage 3, or even further if they do. We shouldn't be bringing them down. To me, like that's a violation of etiquette. That's against the code, dog. You can't do that.
So what did I miss?
So, Flame, we'll let Snoz go next since he's had more time to think about it, but I'll let you think about it for a little bit while Snoz is answering. We were talking about our biggest jumping etiquette pet peeves. If there's one thing that just drives you nuts when people do it, then hit me with it after Snoz.
I mean, I have one, but it's not against me.
Okay.
And we kind of touched on this, and it doesn't happen as much as it has in the past, but probably by far the biggest etiquette pet peeve I have is when you have a guy there that is hoping someone fails because they want like first place or second place in the tournament.
Oh yeah.
I think that's probably the biggest one.
Yeah.
Because I gotta be honest, in the scale of our community, I don't think there's anyone that purposely tries to. No one's like out to get anybody to fail, right? We're pretty good about rooting for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say just, and don't get me wrong. If I was in first and there was one guy left in the tournament, human nature is going to want me to win, right? That's just that's just the reality of anybody. But some people you can just tell, or they say it more than they should. And I would say that's probably my biggest one, because I don't really think anyone does much, because everyone's really good. Look, if people come in the chat and start talking and someone says we got to run, everyone stops talking. Everyone's pretty good about it. Maybe they're not aware the run's going,
Most people.
So I think we're pretty good in that context for the most part. I really do.
For the most part, yeah. There's a good mutual understanding there. Snoz, I'm glad you brought that up. I do want to circle back to that after we get Flame's answer.
Okay.
Biggest pet peeve, Flame?
So my biggest pet peeve in terms of jumping etiquette, I don't really know if I can come up with one thing specifically. Like Snoz's point of people wanting other people to fail just so this person could get a better placement. Like, I'm sure we've all felt that way at some point, but the problem is saying it out loud or making it seem like that's what's happening. Which I at some point, I forget when exactly, I do remember doing that, and I felt bad immediately, and right after that run, I apologized for it.
I'm glad we can talk about this. I may or may not have been the recipient of that, but again, I remember in the moment.
You actually apologized before he even did his run, if I recall.
Yeah. We will not disclose what tournament this was in.
We can't talk about it. It might be a couple of years before you see it, but
we might have just broken the NDA.
No, I do remember that, and I'm glad that again, I appreciate the apology, and I feel like we moved past that pretty quick, so it wasn't.
Yeah.
That's how you solve issues.
It's definitely not personal, right? It's definitely not personal.
If
somebody wants a first place.
That's just an overall, like, that is a great example of just how you handle things. If someone does something that you don't like, if someone disrespected you or did something bad, like, well, if you did that to someone, apologize to them, and if you get that apology from someone, take the apology and forgive. You don't have to forget, but just, forgive them and move forward.
Move on, exactly.
We don't have to hold these grudges forever. So I know that, obviously, when we're talking about other competitors rooting against you, that's one thing. But have any of you ever felt like you were doing a run and the course host was rooting against you?
No.
I'm sure it's happened, but definitely not me.
Not in a way that
I
like
haven't-
I would
you
say
can't root
in
against
thi-
Snoz.
I would say if somebody's had a recent total victory and like one of the better jumpers gets on there and there's any thought of him getting total victory, I get it. That tournament host doesn't want two total victories like back to back kind
Yeah.
of thing, you know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I guess inherently they're not going to want it, but I mean, I guess I don't know. That's an interesting one because I'm sure every tournament host has a vision for how good for where he wants his tournament to end for it to be good.
Well, let's just make this simple.
So-
Flame, have you ever been watching someone run your course and in your head, you didn't say it out loud, but in your head you're like, I want you to fail?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I've definitely
That
done it.
happens like
That's
almost
crazy.
every tournament, and I will say one example, which I think the reason for this was understandable in tournament 14 of my course. It was the second tournament of a new era,
Okay.
because Tricky Cyrus had won tournament 12, and Joey was the one person to beat stage 2, and on stage 3, he clears it, which I was very not happy about, and I
Yeah.
let him know, not because of anything personal, but because since
just
it
had
was
a
so
winner.
early on in the renewal and so
Exactly.
late on Halo 5, I had
Crazy.
not built the final, so I had to do that overnight.
Well,
Oh, that's right.
I
I
do remember
remember
that.
that.
And
Well-
I did build the final out of as much spite as possible.
I do. That's funny. I do agree. Like you have this vision for how you want your tournament to play out, and then when it doesn't play out that way, it can be frustrating. So you want things to fall in place to make it happen. But isn't like that's the beauty of these courses is that it's a new thing every time. It's unpredictable. Anything can happen, and that's what I love about it.
Well,
So
and in this context, I don't think a tournament coordinator is bad because let's be clear, any tournament coordinator that just had a total victory,
yeah,
I can almost guarantee you is not wanting someone on stage 4 to beat it
Yeah.
again the next tournament. It's
Unless it
like they
was
want to. But even then, you'd
Yeah.
like even if it's anybody, even the most likable person in the world, you want a little gap. You don't want a total victory every tournament. I mean,
sure.
nobody does.
Mhm.
So if I'm a tournament host and I ran tournament 10 and someone got total victory and Smokey gets to the final stage of tournament 11, I'm like, bro, it's too soon. Please don't clear this. That's what
Yeah.
I'm thinking to myself, right? It's not that I don't want him to get total victory. I don't want him to get it so quick after I just had
Yeah.
one, is what it is. Yeah.
And go back to a slightly earlier point to this conversation about feeling as if the host was rooting against you. I'm not gonna say the course, but it was one early on in Halo 5 that was not hosted by anyone in this party or anyone from the UK, where I know for a fact that person was rooting against me multiple times.
that's I'm sure people can do the deductions.
You know who you are.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate y'all sharing your biggest jump etiquette pet peeves. I'm going to share mine now, and this is one, I'm stirring the pot with this one, and I am perfectly fine with that. There is, and you know what? It's funny because
I know what you're gonna.
good. I hope you do, so you can mentally prepare yourself. It's funny. I will say that I have contributed to my own pet peeve on a specific course, but I'm not even going to try to justify it. I agree. Like, this is something that should never, ever freaking happen. And it happens all the time, and I cannot stand it, is people competing on a course under a different gamer tag and trying to deceive the host into thinking it's someone different.
Ah.
There is
Guilty.
nothing.
Well, that
to me,
goes
that is in like for me on my course, that is the closest thing to murder in jump law.
Yeah. I get it.
think,
I mean, it makes sense.
as far as it being cheating or not, I don't know about that, but I feel like it's very disrespectful for the tournament because if they do good, now it's skewing the statistics in the history of your course.
That's
Yep.
the biggest thing that bothers me about it.
Exactly.
So there's
Yep.
there You know what? I'll throw the gamer tag of the fake account out there. I won't say who it actually was, but Ero Wrath is a big example of someone on my course. Sideshow Freak is another great example. And like, you know what's funny about Sideshow Freak is on my wiki, people kept trying to make a a wiki page for him, and I kept deleting everything, and other people just keep making it because they just don't know. And I'm like, no, there's a reason I deleted everything for Sideshow Freak. And so Sideshow Freak got to stage 2. Ero Wrath got to stage 2 twice, and stage 3 once. Like, that's very frustrating for me as a course host, knowing that there is a person who got to stage 3 but it wasn't an actual legitimate run. So, and again, that one fooled me. I figured out Sideshow Freak pretty quick, but it wasn't until years after Ero Wrath was done that I actually found out. So that one, honestly, that person got me good. I will say that they did a good job of covering their tracks. But now, the biggest reason that I hate it isn't even so much because, well, part of it is because they're skewing my history. But the other part, and this is the part that it's the worst because it's ongoing, is now someone new comes to the course, this new young jumper, and they're like Sunnyside Splash or whatever, and they compete and they clear stage 1 as a newcomer, and I'm like, I don't know. Is this person real? They don't have a mic. Are they talking? I don't know if this person is legit or not. So now I got to spend all this time trying to figure out, is this a legit competitor or not?
Right.
That's crazy.
I think if the person has enough gamer score, even if they don't have a mic, it's obvious they're a real person.
Yeah, but even then, like, I mean, it depends on what level of commitment you want to give to that other account, because some people could just spend a lot of time on that account and get a high gamer score. Or, on the other side of things, there could be someone who just created a brand new Xbox Live account because they are excited to do some Halo jumping, and they don't have any gamer score, but they want to compete, and they are a legit competitor, but because of all the shenanigans that have gone on, now we don't know, and we can't trust them. But behind that controller is a legit person who is just trying to have fun, and now, like, I'm over here interrogating them, you know? I've had to do that, and I don't like doing it.
Yeah.
It's not fun. It's stressful. But, yeah, and now, like, I look at other courses and just seeing courses where I know results were skewed and competitors were, like, I'm sorry, I'm not, like, part of me wants to just name them. I don't know. Do I go off the deep end? Do I really stir the pot? I don't know who's going to be listening to this. No, I'll just say
I don't think it's not necessary.
I'll just say that there is a very, well, these people don't even compete anymore. That's the only
Let's
reason
just say the people I did it. Well, at least
no. Let me finish this point real quick. There is a course that is, to my understanding, still going on to this day. It's been around for a while, and 2 of the earliest legends of that course, two all-stars, 2 of the biggest names, were both the same person.
Right.
With different gamer tags.
Crazy.
I think
That's some drama.
one of those people was fairly ill, if you know what I mean. Perhaps not in the best of health.
I think for your course,
as an ailment.
I think on your course, Smokey,
you understand the joke, right?
I think I got it, but I also think I'm referring to someone different.
See, it depends on which course you're talking about. You don't need to say a name. You could just say the course, and I'll know who you're talking about.
Yeah, we'll talk. We'll get more. It's in the after show that no one gets to watch. Sorry, guys, but yeah. Just so you know, my whole point that I'm trying to get across is, if you are competing on a jump course, have the integrity to compete as yourself and no one else, because not only are you screwing up the course host, but you're screwing over other competitors, because number 1, you're taking a spot away. Number 2, now you've created all this suspicion that's going to be around newer competitors. So it's just a absolute parasite in the jumping community.
Understood.
That's my rant. Did I break you all?
No.
Y'all just thinking?
No, totally get it.
I will admit to this, which is kind of like that, but I don't think anywhere near as bad, if it's bad at all. As a host, whenever I'm trying to just get randos, sometimes I feel like, hey, I don't want to wait so long to get a bunch of randos, so I'll just go into like some matchmaking game, find some gamer tags and armor, and write those down,
What
then just
the-
dress up as the rando and
What
put
the?
on a bad
He's
run.
not the only one.
Oh, that's
I
kind of
can
funny.
tell you
Yeah.
that right
And then
now.
I don't
No, I need
don't
to
mind that
investigate.
because well at
Yeah.
that point
I can tell you right now, he's not the
Because
only
none
one.
of
You're the
those
Corsos.
fake randos have ever beaten the third obstacle, I think.
Yeah, and again, you're the course host. Like you can do whatever you want, and you know
I
what?
get-
if other course hosts are okay with the same person competing under different gamer tags, then that's fine. Like if other course hosts are okay with it, cool. But if you are doing it on a course or that course host is clearly not okay with it, and you are lying and deceiving them, for example, Snoz, what was it, Purple Dinosaur? Like
Oh yeah,
that was
Purple
was
Dino.
clearly agreed upon prior. Like,
I wasn't even agreed upon. I was asked to do that.
oh, I mean, well, you did it, so you must have agreed at some point.
Well, yeah, you're right. You're right.
And then like, and I'm not even gonna say, Chris's alt. You know, that's
Yeah,
something that
that's- yeah,
the
yeah.
competitor and the course host agreed on
But see,
and did it
but
for
that
humor.
was,
And that
with the
I can
Chris one, that was
what?
with Chris's. It was obvious who it was.
Well, yeah, I think
It's
yours
like
is pretty
there
obvious.
was no hiding that this is Chris joking around doing one. So in every other context, it's like kept from the audience. Right?
Yeah, for sure. And I'm here to break the fourth wall, but I don't. That's not a problem to me if the court, because Hunter was clearly like wanted, and me too. I've also Obi-Wan 111111111. Yeah, that's me. That's I would say, you know what? I was angry that other people were getting these extra runs, so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna play an alt, and I will only jump with one hand. So that was that's what I did every time I played as Obi-Wan. Was I would just do the course with one hand. Hunter knew, he was aware, and that's what we agreed upon. But if you're trying to lie and deceive a course host, that's where I draw the line.
Agreed.
But yeah, I feel like I really just downed the mood here. So I think we should end it with some positivity, right? We've been going for a little over 40 minutes now, so
Nice.
let's wrap this up talking about some things that you like. You know, one thing I love, and it's funny because I get comments on this, like when I show people who don't play Halo, they'll see it and they think it's hilarious. We're going back to shooting people, but shooting someone like after they clear a stage, I love it. I love that that's how we celebrate, because
Yep.
everyone just starts shooting at each other.
Yeah.
Or everyone jumps in the water and all die.
Yes. Yeah, like, especially like if someone fails, it's kind of like a jump of solidarity to, you know.
Yeah.
Like, it
admire
shows
their
that
efforts.
jumping is just one big, very, very dysfunctional family, but it is still a family in a way.
That's right. Patty, what's your role in the family then? Cousin?
Distant cousin maybe.
Okay.
Come and go. No, you know, I really like this tournament, being back on Infinite, being back around the boys. So, you know, in terms of my practice and, you know, just how much I was messing around on Halo and stuff like that, it did take a dip. And I'm glad that it's back. And, you know, especially preparing for this tournament and doing runs with Snoz and Go Tanks and you, Smokey. You know, I just have enjoy that community and, you know, just having fun with the boys. So, I definitely enjoy, you know, what you've built, and I know people are grateful. I'm definitely grateful for it, and I have lifelong friends here, and that won't change no matter what, whether I'm practicing or not. That's why I always take the time to hop on and do a tournament, even if I'm not playing Xbox, you know. And if I have the time, I'll always do a run because, you know, I definitely appreciate you guys, and happy we could be here.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that you being back, you know, now that Halo Infinite, we got PC added in there. It's been great having you back and jumping, because you would still compete on the Halo 5 tournaments, but you were there to show up and do a little bit of practice and then do your run, and that was pretty much it. Whereas now, like, we actually spent, you know, a good amount of time pre-tournament practicing and all that type of stuff. So
Yep.
yeah, it's a lot of fun. I enjoy that aspect of it. I enjoy the camaraderie, and also going back to one of your early points, Patty, like just helping other people with the obstacles too. It does suck when people are getting frustrated and they don't even want to try anymore. But sometimes you get people who are like, you know, they're just really trying to improve, and they're an open book and open to advice. So yeah. Flame, what's something positive in the jumping community that makes you happy?
So besides whenever I clear, I know there's other things, but I'm trying to think of an example, and just leaving it at that makes me sound really egotistical.
Well, I knew what I was getting
Um,
into asking Flame this question.
Yeah. I mean, the tournaments, they're all just entertaining, and a lot of people, when they run a course, whether they do good or not, they at least, uh, their run, they try to make it entertaining in some way, even if they fail. Like, there is always like a small subconscious effort
Yeah.
outside of just wanting to do well of putting on a good show,
Nice.
which
I like
as
that.
a host I've come to appreciate a lot more.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, I know. Snoz, wrap it up with some positivity.
I mean, it's just to help. I mean, sure, you've got a little bit of bickering back and forth with some of the kids now and then, but at the end of the day, if a bunch of people are in a party and someone's struggling on an obstacle and they're getting frustrated, more than likely multiple people are going to say, "What are you struggling with? I'm pretty good at that obstacle. Let me see if I can help you." People generally try and help everyone else. No one, like you made the comment, and I think it was kind of a jokey comment where people sometimes hide secrets. But I think at the end of the day, people generally want to help other people when they need the help. And we even have new people like Maud, for example. He's brand new and he's clearly super enthusiastic. So he's like practicing more than some people. And he's got some good techniques and he is so quick to offer help to
Yeah, he is.
anyone. And
Even me.
I think almost everyone for the most part is like that. And I think we have more than that than bad stuff. And I think sometimes we fixate on the negativity more than we should.
Ooh, that's a good way to wrap it up. Well, I'll say this. This podcast, the HNW podcast, episode 2, we definitely stirred the pot a little bit more and got some other potential conversations going. We'll see if people who listen to this might have some issues with some of the things that I said or any of us said. And if you disagree with anything, or if you want to challenge us on anything, go ahead and either leave a comment or leave me a personal message. And if you want, we can talk about it on a future podcast. So please
Nice.
don't hesitate to tell me what you're thinking or how you feel. I'm ready for it. But Patty, Snoz, Flame, thanks for joining the HNW podcast, episode 2. It was fun talking to y'all.
Thanks for having me, dog.
Wahoo.
And Snoz doesn't ever say goodbye, but I will say goodbye to you guys.
Bye.
And with a reminder to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, leave a comment. Doesn't even have to be about what we talked about. Just say like, oh, Halo jumping, woohoo. I don't care. But please subscribe because Tournament 26 is still coming out, and Tournament 27 is going to be starting not too far from now. So I am very excited about what Halo Ninja Warrior has cooking up at the moment. But in the meantime, we'll see you back for the next episode of the podcast.